Yo everyone, today I am going to talk about something that excites me a lot, and that is of course planning trips. And I have basically 5 websites that I use every time I book a trip, mostly actually road trips. So let's go for it! The first website I want to talk about is called Evernote, and it basically allows you to write as many notes as you want. You can also do to-do lists, even make some tables or maybe called spreadsheets, and honestly do whatever you want related to whatever you want. But I always use it from the beginning to the end of my planning in a trip. So I am actually going to show you the one I did for my trip to Ireland, which is going to happen this summer in August, so pay attention to that. And as you can see, first I have just a small spreadsheet with quite a lot of things in terms of what I wanted to do in my first day, in my second day, in my third day and my fourth day. This is just one of the many drafts I did. Unfortunately, I kinda erased the other ones, but this is the last draft I have, and this was basically me just putting honestly different ideas of what I wanted to do each day, how many days I thought it could be, and after doing a lot of drafts, I actually decided to make the last one, and this one was done more to the end of my planning, and basically I had everything I wanted to do in the first day, the second day, the third day, and even also the places we're gonna stay, the expenses to stay in those places, everything from the rent to the cars, which is also of course renting, the gas. The only thing I didn't actually put here is the food, but that's something I always do at the end and never really in the beginning. But in general, after doing a lot of drafts, more or less, this was the last one I actually came up with, and this allows me, of course, to basically have everything more or less organized. I'm not really a person of basically coming here, for example, when I go to my trip and check what I have to do. Honestly, no, this just helps me have an idea of how things will go and also how I can plan them. But as you can see, you can make this type of tables, you can put to-do lists, you can divide everything by days, and in general it's pretty cool. You can have a bunch of drafts here that I used to have, like I said, but then I erased them. But yeah, it's really cool. I would advise you to try it out. Of course, you can also use programs like, for example, Google Docs, I think that's how it's called. But in general, I prefer this one because it's a place where I have everything. It allows you to do a lot of templates. Every time you don't really have a lot of time, you can just go to the templates and you'll be able to actually have an entire template already done, and of course not have like much work worrying about this. But in general, Evernote, I advise you to try it out. So the second one I am going to talk about is actually a mix of two. One of them is Skyscanner, that everyone in this planet knows, and the other one is Trainline, which is not as famous. I mean, it is in Europe, but not in the rest of the world. So let's start with Skyscanner. I love Skyscanner not to actually book trips or to book planes, but to actually see how cheap I can find them. So Skyscanner, in case you don't know, it's a program or a website that compares prices from all types of airlines to go from one place to the other. So it allows you to basically really find those cheap flights that you have been looking for. And the reason I said that I like to use it to find flights but not always book is because sometimes, I don't completely know why, but their books, you may find like a very cheap flight, but then you go to the actual airline website and that flight can be even cheaper. Now this doesn't happen always, but I really advise you that when you find a flight that you want to take, instead of immediately buying it in Skyscanner, try to check it in the actual airline website and see if it comes a little bit more cheap. So in general, it is a really good program, and I can actually show you just a little bit of how normally I do this. And normally I just enter, of course, like I put where I want to go, then actually where I'm from. In this case, I'm going from Barcelona to Ireland, for example. I put the dates, let's put, for example, I don't know, 11 to the 16. And then, of course, you have this part where you put how many people you have, and this is quite easy, honestly. And then you can find from flights to hotels and to car hire. But to be honest, I never used the car hire, neither the hotels, but I have some apps for that one. So starting with the flights, basically you just choose whatever you want. In this case, I don't really know why it resetted. Let me do it again. Oh my god, I just understood what I was doing wrong, like, because normally I put the city, but in this case I was putting the entire country, so from Barcelona to the entire country of Ireland. So Skyscanner is like, okay, but which city do you want to go? Which is of course also really cool, because this allows you to get, to see which city will be the cheapest one. But in this case we are going to Dublin, because that's where we want to go in the first days. So then you click on it, and then you have a bunch of flights. And the thing I love the most about the Skyscanner is how much you can actually filter it. Imagine that, for example, when you want to go there, you don't really want to go in the morning, you want to go in the afternoon, then you just come here and you put from 3 to midnight. And then you can find that all flights from Barcelona, in this case to Dublin, will always be after 3. And you can do of course the same to the return if you want, for example, to return in the morning, which normally is the opposite, but yeah, in case you want to do it, you can also check it. And as you can see, you also have like the best, the cheapest and the fastest. Normally I go to the best. The cheapest, sometimes you have, for example, these ones, which are quite cheap in compared to the other ones, but then you take like almost 20 hours to go to the place. If that's something that you are willing to do, to save some money, do it, but personally I normally prefer to actually go with the best part and then put here the filters that I want. And in this case, for example, imagine that I choose this one because it seems to be the cheapest one. Then I go to each of the websites and I check these actual flights and try to see if they are as cheap as it says here, or if they are even cheaper, which sometimes happens. And then, still in this part of comparing, I also told you that there is another app that I actually use a lot, and I use it as an app, and almost, I don't think I have ever used it in the website, but it also works, where basically it's a place where you can find and compare trains. And it works pretty well. The only thing is that it only, right now it's only related to UK and Europe. So if you're going to places that are not as famous in Europe, or maybe that they are actually outside of Europe, Trainline won't really be the best for you. But if it is, you can, for example, put from Barcelona to maybe Paris, for example, like I have it here. You put that you're gonna leave, for example, at the 24, and you are I am in this case a youth because I have 22 years old, and then you just actually do it. Let me just select the age, and then you actually get the tickets, and you can actually compare between train and coach. As you can see, in this case from Barcelona to Paris, there is not that many trains. I mean, you can actually load more, but as you can see, not that many, so you don't really have a lot of choice. But that's also because Barcelona to Madrid doesn't really provide many choices. But when you do stuff that actually have a lot of trains, for example, from Barcelona to Madrid, you can actually get way more than these ones. And as you can see, you can actually keep going and you can compare all of them again, see the prices, and then see which one is the cheapest one. For example, we could go with this one that seems super cheap, and it's actually one of the fastest ones, so you can just select it and continue with your ticket. But yeah, these are basically the two ones I always use to compare things. I don't completely book on them always, but they are really good to find information. So now that you know how to get from one place to the other one, and you already know where to, put all of this information, maybe it's time to start finding how can I actually find a place to stay. There are two ways I do this. I either use Airbnb or Booking. So I will start with Airbnb because for me it's actually the one that I prefer the most. However, lately it's starting to get quite more expensive than what it was 2 years ago. So maybe it's not the best solution, but I always advise you to check because sometimes you find the best ones there. So let's start with Airbnb. You probably know it, but Airbnb is basically a place where anyone with, of course, some kind of legal parts, they can put their house or maybe their accommodation for rent. And normally these kind of rents are short term, but there are some that are actually supposed to take months. But in general, it allows you to basically go to a place that is sometimes not actually an hotel, it's maybe a house, maybe a really big luxury place, and it basically allows you to compare it and also to do these bookings with people instead of doing it with hotels, or in this case hostels. The thing I love the most about Airbnb is actually their branding and their design. I think it's amazing. I am a designer as a full-time and I simply loved all the work they do. But in general, it's quite easy. You enter their website, you can actually put, if you don't really know where you want to go, you can just put like a random place, like in this case because it's in Portuguese, but it's basically a random place. Then you can put, for example, I want to go from the 6th to the 9th of August, and we are 2 people, and for example, my baby boy that is there looking and sleeping behind with the LEDs. And then you just search for it, and then you get a bunch of options. Now this is really good because, as you can see, sometimes you find things that are really good. So for example, you can come here and put amazing pools, and then you find places that have, of course, amazing pools and that are also quite expensive. But in general, I think it's amazing. They have a bunch of filters that you can put here. Everything is here, to be honest. And you can literally select prices, how many people. And another thing that I really love about Airbnb is that you can see it using the map. And when you use the map, you can actually see way better the prices, where it's cheaper, where it's more, a little bit more expensive. And this is something about Airbnb that I love. I mean, a lot of apps do this, but honestly, I think Airbnb is by far the one that does it the best. So you just go to a zone and you try to find the cheapest ones. And of course, depending on where you want to stay, it's actually a really good feature that I simply love. However, when I am doing my trips, I don't simply stay with Airbnb and that's it. No, I really like to make sure I will find the cheapest one and the best one. So I always use both Airbnb and Booking. The thing that I love the most about Booking is that you can not only find amazing places to stay, you can also find flights and cars. So I always use Booking to compare it to Airbnb, to compare it to Skyscanner, and also to compare it to, for example, Europcar, which is something that I'm going to talk in a bit. So starting first with the places to find, you just put the place you want to go, the dates, and how many people are going, and then you actually search for it. And when you search for it, you will find a lot of places with a lot of filters, and again, you can also see the map. Even though I don't think it's as good as the Airbnb map, it's still pretty good and it works really well. And it will show you a lot of different types, because nowadays basically almost all hotels and hostels are there. So it really is a good place to find an hotel or an hostel if that's something that you prefer, compared, for example, to staying in a house or renting a place. So definitely it's something you can trust. Then you can of course use it to flights, and normally I use this, even though I prefer Skyscanner, I use this to compare it to Skyscanner and see if I find any cheapest option. The thing about using Booking is that sometimes they say that the flight costs, for example, 200 euros, and then it ends up costing actually 300 for some reason, because the price updates or something. This is something that I don't see as much in Skyscanner happening. And finally, you have the place to rent cars. We always, well, not always, but I mean, we use this a lot of times because they actually provide really good prices and good insurances that sometimes go into, for example, to the specific brands you don't really find. So it will basically compare all of them and it will show you the ones that is the cheapest. Again, you just put the place you want to go, the day you want to go, the times you want to pick it up and take it out, and you can actually put the options of giving the car back to a different place. Now notice that this sometimes makes things quite more expensive, but if it's something that you need for some reason, then I definitely would advise you to try it out. We are going to do that actually from Vigo to Barcelona, so it becomes a little bit more expensive, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. And in general, I love Booking. It's definitely a place that you need to check it out. You probably already know, but you can definitely trust them. Actually, we had to cancel the first car we booked in Ireland, and in the same day they literally gave me my money back. I thought it was going to take a week or two, but no, literally the same day I received the money back. They are really good at this, so I definitely like them. And yeah, let's go for the last one, which is also about cars, and it's called Europcar, and it's of course within Europe, if I am not wrong. What is Europcar? So it's basically a place where you can rent cars and even go to Prestige, which I think it is like luxury things. But it is really good because it's literally focused on finding the cheapest and comparing and showing which ones you can actually do. So first of all, again, you can put same return location, or if you need to return it in a different place, you can put it. For example, in this case, I'm gonna put Dublin because it's the place where I'm actually gonna get it. You put the time, for example, the 19, I will get it, for example, at 10, and I will give it back, for example, the 25 at the end of the day, like at this time. Then you put your age. This is quite important because if you lie about this one, they're gonna know, and you're gonna pay quite a big tax, and sometimes they don't even allow you because you lied. So make sure you put the actual age, even though you're gonna pay more when you are less than 26. And then you put actually the search. So, I don't know why this is not working, like, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. Okay, I just found the problem. The problem is that I was putting my age of 22 and they never really allow people like 22, 23. Only normally if you are more than 25 they actually allow you. So yeah, the 22 doesn't really go well. I mean, there are some rental, that's why I really like Booking, because with Booking I can literally put here the 22 and it will appear, as you can see. Give me just a second. So as you can see, it always does show. That's why I really like the Booking. I mean, they are amazing. And as you can see, it shows a bunch of them, but in the rent car you apparently need to be more than 22, at least 25 to get the car. But in general, it's more or less the same. It shows how much you pay per day, it shows how much you're gonna pay at the end of the day. But please keep in mind that when you are booking cars, this is never the final price, okay? Never. It's always going to be more because you have to get some insurances and also the deposit. Every time you go get a car, they force you to put a deposit. In case you steal the car, they can take you the money. So you need to always be ready for that one. But in general, it is also a really good website. It's really well built. However, at the end of the day, being honest, I prefer to use Booking for that part. But Europcar is still a really good place to check it out, and you find really good cars, so I definitely advise you to check it out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, as you can see, I basically showed you 5 websites that I use all the time to book my trips. I also used it to book my Lapland trip, which was quite amazing, and we were in Erasmus, and for my new Ireland trip this summer, so pay attention to that one again. And of course, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and if you don't want to lose any videos, I post every single Saturday at 6 from Spain, which I'm not sure what time is from your country, but 6 at Spain every Saturday. If you're not really good with times and you forget about a lot of things like me, then don't forget to put the bell, and this way it will always ring you whenever I post a new video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.